Misogyny, a deeply rooted form of gender-based discrimination against women. And it's not just limited to offline spaces. In fact, it's found much prominence in the online world, specifically on YouTube. From Jake Paul to KSI, there have been negative gender-based reinforcements showcased and boosted on the YouTube platform. That, with the gender pay gap that some of the top influencers have discussed, signifies a much bigger societal problem. That there are gender-based exclusions that exist, and that there are gender-based stereotypes that are perpetuated against women. The feminist movement has long existed since the 19th century. From the suffragette movement and the right to vote to the 60s to 80s, where there was a second wave of feminism, which focused on a wider range of issues such as reproductive rights, workplace discrimination, and sexual liberation. Then there is the third wave of feminism, the place that we are right now, which started actually in the 1990s, focusing on issues that include body image, sexuality, gender identity, as well as the inclusion of marginalized groups.
Spice Girls is more about music. It's more than about the way we look and what we wear.
Right.
It's like philosophy. It's a sense of living life.
Okay, so what's all this girl power thing?
You've just completely interrupted what I'm saying.
You know what? I'm the interviewer, so I can chop you off when I want.
No, you can't! No!
Which brings us to the place that we are today. The recognition of global feminism as well as intersectional feminism. Intersectional feminism is a concept that recognizes that various aspects of a person's identity, such as race, class, gender, and sexuality, intersect and can lead to unique forms of discrimination and oppression. And in terms of global feminism, feminism has developed differently in various different parts of the world, reflecting the unique cultural, social, and political contexts of wherever they are in the world. Wearing a burqa in the West is seen as oppression to those who have reaped the benefits of sexual liberation of the 70s. Free the nipple and all that jazz. Yet, to many individuals within the Islamic faith, the burqa or the hijab signifies a defiance towards Western feminism, an imperialist ideology that has led to the policing, harassment, and loss of agency for thousands of Muslim women. To many Islamic people, it's the difference of being able to practice their faith as well as do other things, instead of their faith being used as a political battleground of choice. It denies Muslim women the opportunity to function as mothers or as athletes or as students. You have to choose to be an athlete or practice your religion. Choose between education or practice your religion. Choose between being a good mum or practice your religion. So global and intersectional feminism has had to compartmentalize as not a part of the white feminist movement, as intersectionality and quite frankly just women not being monolithic, with inherent privilege surrounding class, race, and religious practice. I say all of this to say that there is a fundamental difference between white feminism and all of the other divisions of feminism. According to the Economic Policy Institute in 2017, the median annual earnings for a full-time, year-round white woman workers was just over $46,513. That is 21% more than the average earnings of black women, whose average salary was $36,735. Hispanic women earned even less, with just $32,002 per year. And for so long, women of other racial and ethnic backgrounds have bought into the false premise of equal feminism. But why does any of this even matter, and how on earth does this relate to Rosanna Pansino? Well, because I believe that there is a distinct form of white feminism that is being perpetuated in the discussions surrounding Mr. Beast. that makes me question, has Mr. Beast become a symbol of modern day patriarchy? And because of that, subconsciously, we all kind of just want to take him down. But instead of a discussion surrounding the lack of inclusivity around Mr. Beast videos in general, this conversation has become about misogyny against women. All women. Despite the intersectionality of what womanhood means to so many of us.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Hi guys, what is up, what is good, what is Gucci? It is your girl Paige Christie here, bringing you yet another video. I just want to say before I even delve into today's video that I have absolutely no hate or malice towards Rosanna Pansino. I know there's a lot of people, especially on Twitter, who feel that I have been a little bit too jovial when discussing Rosanna Pansino, but as far as I'm concerned, if Rosanna Pansino can post about doing a hide and seek championship league and putting that together as a joke, as a troll on the audience, and I'm allowed to have a little bit of fun too. If we're not going to take it serious, then I'm not taking it seriously either. I also want to make it abundantly clear that I am very aware of my demographic in my audience. I'm aware that the majority of my audience are white, so I'm not trying to alienate you here by having this discussion. This is not white women are terrible, you know, XYZ dissertation by Paige Christie. It's nothing like that. I just want to talk about the inequality in terms of feminism and what that means in terms of intersectionality, and what that means when there is a white woman who tends to speak for all women without consulting the rest of the women. Because I do find it incredibly interesting that despite all of the stuff that's happened with Rosanna Pansino, which I will delve into in a little bit for those of you who are like, what the f is going on? But I do believe it's kind of interesting with Rosanna Pansino that so many other individuals, specifically women who are involved in this competition, have had absolutely nothing to say. And I don't think it's a coincidence, and I'll explain why. So if you are interested in hearing an unreasonably convoluted take on this whole Rosanna Pansino situation, stay tuned. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Rosanna Pansino is an American YouTuber, baker, actress, and author. She was born on June 8th in 1984 in Seattle, Washington, USA. Pansino is best known for her YouTube channel, Nerdy Nummies, where she creates and shares baking tutorials, often featuring nerdy pop culture themed treats. Her channel has generated a massive following and has become one of the more popular cooking and baking channels on YouTube. Rosanna Pansino launched her YouTube channel, Nerdy Nummies, in 2011, making her one of the YouTube OGs. She quickly gained popularity for her creative and visually appealing baking videos, which often involve her making treats inspired by video games, movies, and other geeky themes. Her channel has millions of subscribers and billions of views worldwide. Pansino has released several cookbooks, including the Nerdy Nummies cookbook, which features many of her popular recipes and has been well received by her fans. Pansino has also expanded beyond YouTube by launching her own baking line, Wilton x Rosanna Pansino, which includes baking tools and supplies for her fans to use in their own baking endeavors. Now moving on to Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast, whose real name is Jimmy Donaldson, that's such a whack name, I'm sorry dude, is a popular American YouTuber, philanthropist, and social media personality, known for his elaborate and often generous stunts and acts of charity. He was born on May 7th, 1998 in Greenville, North Carolina, USA. Mr. Beast first gained significant attention on YouTube by creating videos featuring various challenges, including counting to 100,000 and saying Logan Paul, why 100,000 times. His content often revolves around high-stakes challenges, donation drives, and ambitious projects that involve helping people in need or supporting smaller businesses. One of the hallmarks of MrBeast's content is his philanthropic efforts. He has donated large sums of money to individuals in need, charities, and even strangers on the street. Some of his well-known philanthropic endeavors include planting millions of trees through the Team Trees initiative, giving away cars and houses, and tipping waitstaff enormous amounts of money. There is much discussion as to whether MrBeast's philanthropic I can't say that word. Ventures are self-serving and performative. I'm not entirely sure, but I will say that MrBeast has an immense amount of wealth, and I've seen him do more with his platform and his money than I've seen literal billionaires do. Like, what are you doing, Oprah? Where are you at? Post up! So anyway, take that as you will. Okay, so what is this situation about? How is there beef between MrBeast and Rosanna Pansino? Well, almost 2 years ago, MrBeast posted a video called The Creator Games. It's something that he started in the pandemic to kind of have this camaraderie between content creators all getting together to play a game and to make some money for their communities. Well, this time with Rosanna Pansino, The Creator Games were taking place at a massive stadium where they were supposed to play hide and seek with random rules. This was a charity event, I guess you could say, where they had the opportunity to win $1 million for their community. Now, the fundamental problem came with the placements in the video. If you were to watch the entire 10-minute video or 12-minute video from MrBeast, you will see that the placements were pretty much all over the place. In the original video, the top 3 placements were shown as Zachary, Logan Paul, as well as another content creator from TikTok called Lerray. It originally, from the MrBeast video, looked as if Rosanna Pansino had not made it into the top 3, and that she was possibly 4th place.
Look at that $1 million. Yeah, you can wave goodbye to it. With 7 people now eliminated, we are down to the final 3.
Massive stadium, but there's not a lot of spots to hide.
I literally showed up here at 6 in the morning, pushing through with 0 sleep.
Rosanna Pansino and another content creator called Quackity were replaced by the TikTok star Lerray as well as Logan Paul, meaning that the way that we saw it as viewers was like they weren't even in the top anywhere to begin with. Despite the reality of the situation being that it was Zachary, then Quackity, and then 3rd place was Rosanna Pansino. So for about a year, we didn't hear nothing of this situation. That was until Quackity decided to sit down on his platform and tell his audience that he placed completely differently to what was shown in the MrBeast video. Take a look.
So I ended up being in 3rd place. I ended up being in 3rd place because they found me. But Lerray was in that video and Lerray was asleep. So I was technically 2nd place. So I was the 2nd place in that video. So
now, what I will say from the outset is that that is extremely annoying, and I think that anybody, Quackity as well as Rosanna Pansino, definitely have the right to be upset with the way that it was showcased to the audience. Doing really well at something and then having it perpetuated to the world that you didn't do as good as you did must feel really shitty. And I think that Rosanna Pansino is 100% valid for feeling upset about it. But we'll learn a little bit later that the wording and the verbiage and some stuff just make me feel a little bit icky. But before we discuss that, she then decided to go on the Just Trisha podcast. Now, I can't work out which took place first, whether she made a public statement first or whether she went on the Just Trisha podcast second, or if it was the other way around. But these both took place on the same day. So I don't know if it was Trisha podcast first, then statement, or statement, then Trisha podcast. I'm just going to be honest with you. So let's just go to the Just Trisha podcast, where Rosanna Pansino discusses how it is that she feels about the whole entire MrBeast situation.
And I had a blast. I had so much fun. And then when I got invited to do the 3rd one, it was at the SoFi Stadium. So it was the first one in person. And we did like a major hide and seek and challenge game. And it was over 24 hours. We were up for, I think I was up over 30 hours straight. Wow. I didn't sleep.
Yeah, I think the challenge was around 24, but you know, you wake up before you're there. So
yeah,
we're up for longer.
Oh my God, straight?
Yeah, and I'm just confused what happened there. Again, I didn't get involved in any of the drama. I and I was nice to everyone. And they edited me out like midway through the video. The thing that I didn't understand, and I'm still confused today, and it hurt my feelings, is like when Mr. Beast talks about these creator games and challenges, he said, you know, it's all in good fun. Like, audience, don't take it too serious. All of the money that's won is donated. You know, it's given away. So it's we can just have some fun with it. And I was like, yeah, that's really cool. And so when it aired, when the video came out, my friends were like, what happened?
Really? Because you weren't in it.
They had me get eliminated like somewhere in the middle, and I was really proud of myself because I'm not mean and competitive, you know, I just go out there and do my best, and I actually beat other creators who are a lot of male creators who are super competitive, they're very talented, like these are big creators, and so I was proud of myself that I had accomplished that, and they edited me out somewhere in the middle when really I was top 3.
Wait,
and
what?
in the edit, they have like, okay, top 3 is Lerray and Logan Paul and Zack King. They weren't top 3. I beat Logan Paul.
What?
Yeah.
So who were the top 3 with you?
So it was really interesting. So when we did challenges, cut it down to I think 10 of us or something.
Yeah,
and
so
then
they did all in one day, but he released his 2 videos. So the first video, you do all these challenges, and if you win the challenge, you go on to the next round, which is the big hide and seek. And so Ro won one of the challenges. She beat out everybody, so she made it to the hide and seek part. So yeah, I think they got rid of half. I can't remember exactly. I think it was they got rid of half in the first one. And then the finalists.
There wasn't a lot of girls left.
Did they reshoot this stuff? How are they editing you out when you got so far? Do they like reshoot with Logan?
I don't think so.
No,
I think they just spliced
it. It's just the way they edit it. Because it's just a bunch of footage of people by themselves, so you can kind of edit it in any order you want, as long as you shoot around different people not being in the background when they shouldn't be to tell your story. And so on this one, they made it to where Logan was number 2, and they said, oh, we found him 1 minute before we found Zack King, who did actually technically win. You can talk about that a little bit. But they're like, but no, they had found him hours ago. And like Ro made it further than they showed in the edit.
I was top 3, so that was very confusing. So when I'm watching it, they had Logan, Zack King, and Lerray be top 3, but Lerray fell asleep, so he was disqualified because one of the rules in the game was that every time Mr. Beast said to move locations, you had to move. And if you got caught in transition moving, then you're caught. And you had to move or you're just
couldn't stay,
disqualified.
Because there's like 6 floors or 7 or whatever.
This huge stadium.
And he was saying, okay, no one on floor 7 anymore, so anyone on 7 has to go down.
Move down.
So if you are on a high floor and you fell asleep, you get eliminated because you're not moving.
Right.
Wow.
So I followed all the rules, good sportsmanship. I tried really hard, and I was top 3. And so it was so weird to see the video, and they're like, oh, these 3 guys are top 3. And I felt so like, what?
Did you ask him? Did you email anybody about this? Are you like you should have at least said, like, what happened?
No, you know me, I don't say anything. I take all my feelings and I shove them down into my little toes and I never talk about it.
Some whiskey.
And I have some whiskey and I move on.
So yeah, as you can see from the clip, she just seemed really chill about the whole situation. It was a sucky thing that happened, but she didn't make any moves to try and, you know, change the verdict or even to alert people that she was upset about it, you know, and I guess that's just what happened. Is it shitty of Mr. Beast to do that? 100%. I think it's a gross move to have made. Maybe it was an editing choice by the editing staff. Maybe she didn't provide any quote-unquote content or interesting content for them, so they moved the placements around. I do believe though, and this is something that I've said in the past, like publicly on my streams and stuff, I have said in the past that I think it's important that when things are done for entertainment purposes, that it's important that, you know, programs like reality shows, as well as even stuff like on YouTube with like Mr. Beast, that they let the audience know that things are done for entertainment purposes and that what you're seeing is not the real reality of what has actually been depicted. I think that should become standard practice, especially for content creators who create content for entertainment and not because it's a reality. Like, I'm speaking all the way from like J Station, you know, don't do this at 3 a.m. kind of content, all the way through to Mr. Beast kind of content. If what we're seeing is not a true reality, then I feel like the audience needs to be aware in the same way that we would make the audience aware by FTC guidelines of whether we're sponsored or not, because these things change the viewer's perception on what it is that they're viewing, and I think it's important. So I think if anything, that is like the one fundamental thing that needs to be learned from all of this. Things that are from a perspective of entertainment and created for entertainment purposes that might not be true to reality need to specifically state that. I think that that's a nice positive move in the correct direction. Okay, so on this same day, I don't know if this was before the Trish podcast or after, Rosanna Pansino said the following. So she stated on Twitter, I have been allowing others to treat me poorly in private for many years and I am fed up. I'm going to start standing up for myself and finding my voice. This is what she had to say. Mr. Beast lied and edited me out of the top 3 of the Creator Games. I had participated in Creator Games 1 and 2 and was excited to be a part of YouTube's Creator Games 3, Hide and Seek at the SoFi Stadium. After filming had wrapped, I truly couldn't believe how well I did at the competition and was proud of what I achieved. I had placed 3rd. When the video was released, I was shocked, disappointed, and felt hurt. Mr. Beast, in brackets Jimmy, had edited the video to make it look like I performed worse than I did. This was extra upsetting because I genuinely believed him when he said that his videos are authentic and real. He edited the video to make it look that the final people were Lerray, Logan Paul, and Zack King. The final 3 people were actually Zack, Quackity, and myself. For the entire duration of filming, we wore earpieces connected to walkie-talkies. They would announce in our ears when someone had been found and when we were moving to hiding spots. If we didn't move, we were immediately disqualified. While I was still hiding, they announced that they found Logan Paul. I couldn't believe I outlasted him. He is such a fierce competitor. It was getting really late. We filmed over 24 hours straight, and they eventually offered me money to come out of hiding and quit. I declined. I had been counting the eliminations, and I was currently in 4th place, with Lerray, Quackity, and Zack and myself still remaining. Jimmy asked us to move hiding spots again to the side of the stadium with the mannequin. It was this time that I was found in transition moving to my next hiding spot. When Jimmy found me, he brought me to the field to be with the others who had also been found. I thought that I had placed 4th. However, Lerray had fallen asleep and hadn't moved in a long time, so he was disqualified. This meant I got 3rd place. When I arrived to the film, I saw Matt, Pat, and Logan there because they were seekers now. Jimmy said that he was going to look for Zack and asked if anyone wanted to join him. I offered, but he said that he wanted to take Logan instead. So I hung back to start looking for Zack in a different direction with Matt, Pat. I placed 3rd. Quackity placed 2nd and Zack placed 1st. This is what actually happened. Despite Jimmy editing out the, in capitals girl, only female in the top 3. I was proud of what I achieved. I followed the rules of the game, I gave it my all, I had fun, I never gave up, and they can't take that away from me. Now, at this point, when I had read this statement, I thought to myself, that's completely fair. I have no issue with this statement at all. In fact, I didn't even think I made a social commentary on it. I just commented on how many times it was that I was seeing it on my social media timeline because so many people had lots to say. But I felt like she was completely valid in feeling like, yo, tell the world where I really placed, because I really worked hard for this and I really tried my best, and I want people to see how well I goddamn did, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, there was a lot of people online, especially on Twitter or X, I refuse to call it X, but X, who had stated that they felt that she was taking this misogyny arc when this wasn't really the case, especially when it came to the fact that it was in fact her and Quackity who were displaced from their actual rankings. Because of this, I guess, she decided to hop on to the H3 podcast to discuss with Ethan Klein as well as Healer what it is that she felt about the whole situation, and also to give more details to those who cared. So this is what it is that Rosanna had to say.
But the real reason, and we can talk about it, is he had us sign NDAs.
Yeah.
And that's a part of it. And the other part is I just really value like my relationships with people. My friendships mean the world to me. And I talked about it a little bit before, but sometimes I put that above myself. And I'm learning that that's not healthy and that I can't keep doing that, putting other people before me as a detriment to myself.
It seems like you feel like this is a pattern of stuff that's been happening to you. And it's kind of what led to you making this statement about that video, right?
Yeah, I think that I've allowed it to happen for my entire life. And I think it's because of how I deal with things when bad things happen to me. I hold it in. When bad things happen to me, I just hold on to it. I shove it down. I ignore it. And I think people know that I do that. especially people that I get to know and I work with. So it opens the door to really bad behavior because I won't say anything.
I think a lot of women feel also that that's just kind of the expectation of them.
So from like what I'm gathering from this section of the video right now is that she seems to be a very passive and docile individual, and I guess that she's now finding it very difficult to continue being passive and docile. I feel like something happens to women when they hit their 30s. They come into like their grown woman era and they just feel like they shouldn't be, you know, absolutely dogpiled over or be dismissed. And I think that that's something that she's probably realizing in her own life, that the reality is that keeping up appearances really doesn't mean anything. It is just better just to be yourself, and people can accept it, like it, or lump it. So I think that this is a positive thing that she felt the need to speak out. And even, again, at this point, I have absolutely nothing wrong with her telling her story and explaining what happened and being truthful with the audience. After almost 2 years of no truths being told about the situation, I think that this is fine. And again, we will see the point where I'm just like, what the hell? Because that's going to come shortly, but let's continue.
You know, to hold it in and just be polite and smile and not be like annoying.
I completely agree. You have to stay silent and take it.
So this all comes down to I think you're feeling like I don't know what's the word. I want to word it correctly, but there seems to be, I guess, you're feeling some misogyny that's continues to affect your relationships with working with people in general, not just Jimmy, but in general.
Yes, this is unfortunate. I don't ever want to believe that, but it felt like a boys' club there. That's the truth. And I understand that people don't want to hear that, especially if you're a Mr. Beast fan and you love him. You know, you don't want to hear negative things about somebody that you really admire or look up to. The truth sometimes is not pleasant. And it's also not mutually exclusive. People are saying he didn't edit you out because you're a girl. He edited you out because you're boring. And the two are not mutually exclusive.
Right.
He can edit me out because I didn't fit the narrative he wanted for who he wanted to be in top 3. And he can edit me out because he really didn't want a female there. It can be both. And I just want to remind people of that it's not an or situation. It has to be one or the other. It's just the vibe I got all day.
Yeah.
Even when like he would go and vlog with everybody. And even at the end of the night when he said, who wants to go find Zack with me? I offered, and he was like, no, I'm going to take Logan.
Right. I noticed you had mentioned that.
Okay, there's something about this that's making me feel icky. And the reason is, it's the fact that she's saying that it's not just that she's boring, it's that she's boring and she's a woman. And she felt as if that there was a narrative of a boys' club, because I guess she didn't feel as included as she should be. Okay, first of all, let's put some other like demographic situations into this as well. Rosanna Pansino is 38 years old. She's older than me. Right? And I'm an old bitch here on YouTube. She's older than me. Meaning that somebody who was born in 1998. I have nothing in common with somebody who was born in 1998, by the way. Somebody who was born in 1998 probably doesn't want to hang out with a 38-year-old woman. He might invite you to be on the show. Use a little bit of that clout to bring in your audience, to have this mutually agreeable business decision. Because this is the other thing as well. This is a business. This is a business that is taking place. This is a business transaction. You bring your clout, I'll bring my clout. We'll have a bunch of clout together and everybody will intersect with each other's audience and get clout from each other, right? There is an exchange of currency. The currency that is exchanged right now is clout. Everybody is using each other's clout. So for the people who are sitting there calling Rosanna Pansino a clout chaser, valid, because everybody who was in that fucking stadium is a clout chaser. They were all mutually exchanging clout as currency, right? They were trying to cross-pollinate with each other's audiences. But Jimmy not wanting to hang with you is not a slight at you, girl. You're 38. Jimmy not wanting to hang with me is not a slight at me, girl. I'm 32. Jimmy's born in 1998, girl. Is he like even 25 yet? He might be 25. Girl, he's not our age. There's 7 years or more. I'm not counting. Can't be asked. There is a lot of years between myself and Jimmy, and we have nothing in common. There is more years between you and Jimmy, because there's 6 years between me and you. He's not going to want to hang out with him. Not wanting to do the runaround with you wasn't a slight at you. It's just that you're a little bit older and he probably has less to talk to you about. And this is not me being mean for the sake of being mean. I'm just being honest. That wasn't to do with you being a woman. That's age. The boys' club was him associating with other people who were closer to him in age. Logan Paul, I do believe, is like 29. A 29-year-old and a 25-year-old probably have a lot more in common than you do. You probably have more in common with Matt Pat. That's why y'all were together. It's like, these are all business decisions that are being made. And you're entering into a business relationship with a businessman who has made decisions based on how he wants his business to perform. And the way he wants his business to perform is to suck up as much clout as possible in order for the audience to stay engaged more. I think the audience would stay to watch the rest of the video regardless of whether Rosanna Pansino was in it or not. I think the audience would probably not want to stay as long for the video if Logan Paul wasn't in it as much. And that's because at this point, this is before CryptoZoo and all of that kind of stuff. That's because at this point, Logan Paul is in his I'm rising to the top and I'm the greatest guy ever arc, right? He's in his, shit couldn't even faze him, roll him in glitter arc. He was in the best place in his career at that point 2 years ago. Not so much right now, in terms of like public perception, not many, but public perception. But his public perception was so much better back then. It was better and cooler to be associated with him. And he had the clout and the views to match. So sometimes things aren't just because you're a woman. And this is not me invalidating the fact that misogyny can exist. It can exist in these spaces. I just don't think that that's what was happening to Rosanna. So then after the H3H3 podcast went on, obviously H3H3 is seen by 30,000 at minimum every episode live. There were a lot of people who watched Rosanna speak about her situation, and many people who fundamentally disagreed with the narrative that it was a misogynistic situation that took place with her and that sexism was at play. And because of that, she got flamed on Twitter. And this is when things escalated to a point where I felt very, very uncomfortable. So we're going to take a look at POBOX's video and see exactly what it is that people had to say on social media, as well as what it is that Rosanna Pansino had to add on top of that. So let's take a look.
Zack W responds by saying, "Is there anyone else who can back up this story? Is there any evidence at all? I don't not believe you, but I don't feel confident in the story without evidence. Literally anything would help. Anything that could help us figure this out?" Rosanna then responds by saying, "Quackity confirmed what happened separately and I didn't even know it." She then shares her quote tweet of someone sharing a Quackity clip where she says, "Thank you for sharing this clip. I hadn't seen it before. Quackity indeed got second place. I don't know why they edited him out of the top 3 as well." This clip was posted by Cooney and they say, "I want to give veracity to the story. Quackity on May 22nd, 2022 told the same story, but in Spanish on the Rubis Twitch channel. He helps translate it to Quackity saying, 'It was in an American football stadium, and let me tell you what happened. I was hiding in the stadium for like a good 12 hours. There was Logan Paul, Bella Poarch, who else? Everyone. So what happened is that it was for $1 million. I was one of the last 3 left. And do you know what happened? I was running through the stadium and Nolan saw me. Nolan found me and ran. Thanks to him, I was second late, because there was 3 of us left. First they took me out, and there were 2 left, and then they found another, and there was only 1 left. It turns out that the one who remained was asleep on the 2nd floor, and the 2nd floor was already prohibited. Then it was me and another." Rose Malay responds to this by saying, "Mr. Beast makes short videos of challenges that last for days. What's new?" He explained all of this in his video, nothing to see here. If there was an editing mistake and she actually got 3rd instead of 4th, it doesn't matter. The Lerray thing had to be explained like how it is. Mr. Beast says Logan Paul was found 1 minute before Zack, who won, so it likely all happened really fast. This is a giant fucking nothing burger. Rosanna then responds by saying, "Logan Paul was found while I was still hiding. This was hours before Zack was found. Mr. Beast lied." Rosanna then posts that clip of Quackity again and says, "My story was previously confirmed by Quackity. Someone on Twitter let me know that he talked about it on a stream and was also confused as to why he was edited out of the top 3. Video was in Spanish." Rosanna then retweets Popcrave's coverage of her story and JustJared.com's coverage of her story, and then tweets out, "Thank you for making me feel not alone. This has all been overwhelming and a lot to process today. I was scared to tell my story for a long time because of how much hate others have gotten in the past for speaking up about their own experiences. In the hours since posting my story, I have received at least 3 other messages from female creators who have had similar experiences with Mr. Beast and those around him. That will be their story to tell if they choose to, but it is making me realize I am not as alone as I once thought I was. Also, unbeknownst to me, Quackity has also told the same story previously on a live stream. He was also confused as to why they edited him out of the top 3. Thank you all for the immense support. Words cannot describe how empowering and healing the last 24 hours has been. Keemstar then quote tweets her and says, her statements are written like a Me Too statement. She's talking about not getting credit from Mr. Beast for her getting 3rd place in hide and seek. Rosanna then quote tweets Keem and says, ah yes, downplaying women's survival stories to throw a dab on Twitter. Stay classy, Keem. Means I finally made it. She then edits her post to say, ah yes, Keem, downplaying Me Too to throw a jab on Twitter. Pretty low, even for you. Means I finally made it, I suppose. Someone then made a response to her, which was deleted, but I assume it's asking about the edit she made because she responded to that tweet by saying, I'm not talking about that. Keem is downplaying the Me Too movement. I agree, I was not comparing them. I clarified the tweet.
Okay, so it was at this point, at this very point, that my opinion and perspective of the whole situation changed drastically. We went from, this was an unfair situation that took place with me and hide and seek competition, to now sounding like a Me Too kind of vibes. And her then pointing the opposing finger back at Keemstar and saying, you're downplaying Me Too. No, girl, did you hear your language? So this is what I had to say on Twitter, and I'll read it out to you. I said, I muted my last tweet because you can argue with yourself. I've watched this woman overplay her hand for the past 2 days and quite frankly, turn a non-serious situation into something that has read as if she is a victim of something far more substantial than unfair gameplay. Language is important, and survivor stories and scared to tell my story make it seem as if something insidious happened, and it did not. It was a minor inconvenience and just a shitty thing that someone did. If you read this statement that Keemstar referred to as looking like a Me Too statement with no context, you would think that the perpetrator had harmed her. They did not. And that is detrimental to survivors. And I said what I said. The end. So this is what it is that she said. Now let me remind you guys that if you were to read this with no contents, without seeing the Just Trish video, without seeing her previous statements online, without seeing the H3 situation, without seeing the numerous articles it is that she had retweeted, and you hopped onto Twitter, and the only thing that you saw, your only exposure to this conversation was this, you would think that something terrible happened, and that is problematic, which she admits is problematic later on, but this is problematic. So let's read it. This has all been overwhelming and a lot to process today. I was scared to tell my story for a long time because of how much hate others have gotten in the past for speaking up about their own experiences. In the hours since posting my story, I have received at least 3 other messages from other female creators who have had similar experiences with Mr. Beast and those around him. That will be their story to tell, if they choose to. But it's making me realize that I am not as alone as I once thought I was. Unbeknownst to me, Quackity also told the same story previously on a live stream. He was also confused as to why they had edited him out of the top 3. Thank you for all of the immense support. Words cannot describe how empowering and healing the last 24 hours have been. When I tell you that if somebody had read that to me with no context and told me that Mr. Beast had SA'd Rosanna Pansino, judging by this text, by the verbiage and the language used in this message, I would believe it. And that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. And you know why it's a problem? Because now this is turning into something completely different. Completely different, girl. This is now turning into something completely different. People are now accusing him of these things. Yep. People are now accusing him of these things with no receipts. With no receipts. Because Xander, I'm about to get to you, bro. I'm about to get to you because you're problematic too. I'm about to get to you. So after this whole situation, Rosanna Pansino then went on to make multiple other posts on Twitter regarding this situation, right? There is actually a video, which I'll post like over here, maybe over here on the screen, of Rosanna Pansino, somebody scrolling through her tweets over the past couple of days after this situation took place. She was a lot with this story and what actually took place and what happened to her, because at the crux of the situation, what happened was her placement in a game of hide and seek for charity was placed differently to what she actually did. Instead of placing third, she placed fourth, and that was a deceptive practice that took place by Mr. Beast and his team. This turned into a conversation about misogyny against women in general, misogyny against all women, as well as now allowing other people to come up with their own version of events, of situations that quite frankly are incredibly difficult to believe without proof. I am more than willing to go back on myself and say, you know what, this opinion of mine is subject to change should real information come forward. But at this point, the way that this is being mishandled and mismanaged is fucking disgusting and disturbing, quite frankly. And Rosanna, for me, is the catalyst of this. It's not her fault. I don't think it's her fault that people have ran with this, but she is the catalyst. And I think the language that we just read out is part of the problem. So let's get into it. What has ended up taking place is that people are now trying to change the definition of misogyny, in my humble opinion. This can't be a misogynistic practice if the exact same situation took place with quackity too. So hear me out. In response to my previous message, somebody posted, I don't agree that it was a minor inconvenience. They were playing for a large sum of money that would go back to aiding their community. And for all intents and purposes, this is a job that she was clearly being discriminated against because she is a woman. Goes beyond unfair gameplay. And this is what I had to say to this individual. I said, did quackity grow a vagina? Like, I am mad confused at the misogyny rhetoric when a man and a woman were cut from the final 3 ranking. It literally cannot be misogynistic if the discrimination was applied to both sexes. Misogyny is literally the dislike or the contempt or the discrimination of women. If a man in the same instance experiences the same discrimination, it literally by definition cannot be misogynistic. Stop changing the definition of words to fit a narrative that suits you. My goodness. Another person who I actually really care about and respect, but you know, we're adults, we can have disagreements and still be okay with each other. A person by the name of Star Swan said, you and I have already gone down this path. This is to somebody else, not me. Yes, it can still be misogynistic. He took a look at the final 3 that was male and a female and decided to make it all male instead. He could have chosen women as replacements, but only selected men instead. So then Paige decided, because I have nothing better to do, I promise you. Paige then decided to put her glasses on, girl, and get a little calculator out. It's like a little calculator out. I started making mathematical equations. I sure as fuck did. So this is what I said, it still doesn't make it misogynistic, love. Out of all 15 creators, there were 5 women even playing. That meant that men were 2 times more likely to be dominant playing the game, or even 2 times more likely to have been replaced in ranking unethically, because I agree it's unethical what took place, by a man. Then think of it this way. Out of 5 original women, 3 made it to the final. The probability of that even happening was unlikely. There was a 0.33333333 chance of that happening. I'm literally using numbers here. So let's go even further. Out of 3 women left, the likelihood of any of them winning, the potential average of winning equals A plus B equals 3, 3 plus 10 equals 3 out of 13 equals 0.23. Meaning basically 23%, which is the probability of only calculating their chance of winning, to which the top 3 placement actually changes nothing. So the question would have been, why wasn't women equally dispersed within the game instead of being 1 out of 3? The point is, quackity being removed is extremely valid and important to the discussion, because for Bereavity of having an all-male final, he should have been left in his original placement, meaning that it was likely a change to accommodate Western popularity in his audience, and not to do with a person having a vagina. If you wanted to talk about real misogyny or misogynoir, The question should be, why is a black woman / black female commentator never competed? People moan about misogyny in rooms that we can't even open a door for. So it's so hilarious to me, especially when it's intersectional, and I don't see anyone campaigning for us to even be in those rooms, but want us to cry boohoo tears? Please. So is this misogyny? Language doesn't support this rhetoric. Numbers doesn't support this rhetoric. Logic doesn't support this rhetoric. So then it's just a feeling, unsubstantiated. I then went on to continue. Just for the sake of being clear, Quackity has a combined audience of 12.5 million. That is only his English-speaking audience. He has an additional 2.235 million on his Spanish channel. Rosanna has 735,000 on Facebook, 4.5 million on Instagram, 14.5 million on YouTube, with a total of 19.735 million overall. Lerray, a disqualified replacement, has a whopping 27 million on TikTok, 6.4 million on Instagram, and 9.3 million on YouTube, a total audience of 32.7 million. And Logan Paul, Jesus Christ, he has 4.35 million on Impulsive, 23.6 million on his main channel, 27 million on his Instagram, 18.1 million on TikTok, making a total of 69.05 million across all platforms. This isn't taking into account his WWE audience or his boxing / sports audience in general. So was it just numbers? Or was it misogyny? And that's exactly where I'm at. Was it just numbers or was it misogyny? Because it's looking like to me that the replacements were two people who were way more, and this is not me being rude, way more successful in terms of what they could provide to the Mr. Beast platform than Quackity and Rosanna. And it's unfortunate, it's unfair. It is completely unfair what took place. But it is not misogyny. That is not giving misogyny. And this is why we're going to circle back to the whole white women feminism situation. Because I remember really recently when Mr. Beast's boys club boy, Chris, decided to come out publicly as a trans woman. And his entire younger, cis-het and high-key misogynistic audience decided to drag Mr. Beast for continuing his relationship with Chris in a public light. Content creator Sunny V2 even made a video surrounding this whole situation and the perception of the audience and how many people thought that this was bad for his brand. But you know what he did? He stood next to his trans female friend. He said, "That's my friend, period." So is this the boys club? Isn't this like a remarkable stance to have in the face of an audience that is already condemning you for the decision of staying publicly friends and including your trans female friend despite their transition? Mr. Beast got flamed for that. So are we talking about misogyny against women? Or are we talking about misogyny against your specific demographic type of level privilege of woman? This is where we get into that really weird place, because when it comes to trans women, Mr. Beast supports trans women. I think that's kind of clear, right? Okay, so then let's take this further. What about the people who are employed by Mr. Beast? Because it's not just the women who show up for the challenges. There is a whole plethora of women who work for the Mr. Beast company. From Feastables, from Mr. Beast Burger, right the way through just to the channel itself. On the screen somewhere, I'm going to show you an entire list of Mr. Beast's employees that we have been able to find on LinkedIn, showing that his employees comprise of over 40% women. A strong demographic of women. Some of these women actually helping content creation. Yeah, a lot of these women helping content creation. A lot of these women, do you know, funnily enough, are women of color. A lot of these women are women of color. Like this woman over here. She's a woman of color. She works for Mr. Beast under the Mr. Beast name, under the Mr. Beast brand, under the Mr. Beast franchise. And he has been providing jobs and employment for loads of women. Loads of women. And more jobs and employment for women in the workplace than the majority of other work companies. Period. He's boasting close to 40% women demographic, and most companies have less than 30. So is he misogynistic? Is that the misogynist? Is he misogynist for all women or just your specific kind of demographic of women? Mr. Beast works alongside a lot of non-binary individuals, a lot of they thems. Mr. Beast works alongside a lot of intersectional, different kinds of minority groups, from indigenous individuals to Arabic women, people who are of the Muslim faith. He hires black women. He hires numerous different kinds of women in his space. More so than most other companies. Listen, ladies, some of your favorite makeup companies are comprised of way more men than women. Yep. So after all of this took place, then Rosanna Pansino decided to hop onto Twitter to make an apology, of which she then went on to retract. We're going to go back to POBOX. He is the Internet Archive guy. We're going to go back to POBOX and take a look at what it is that she had to say, and I will come back with my thoughts.
And then shortly after this, she deleted all her tweets and made an apology to Mr. Beast, where she said, "I would like to apologize to Mr. Beast. I should have expressed my feelings privately and handled things directly. I will be removing all of the posts where I talk about Creator Games and Jimmy. I will be honest in that the thousands of death threats I've received today are a contributing factor, but I do also sincerely hear the feedback from so many of you." Rosanna then goes back on her previous retraction by saying, "I redact my apology to Mr. Beast of not settling things privately. Based on recent new information and development behind the scenes, I have learned that certain issues will never be handled privately. They will only be dismissed or covered up privately. Moving forward, I do promise not to drop an ill-timed music video. Completely poor timing, my bad, and will word things more clearly in the future. Never my intention to downplay anyone's experiences. I am just learning to find my own voice and to be a safe space for others." She then ends up deleting this tweet. Omni attached his response to Rosanna under this tweet, where he says, "You spent the past 48 hours aggressively trying to ruin Mr. Beast's reputation over a game of hide and seek that happened 2 years ago, then paint yourself as a victim of sexism even after you learned about quackity. It feels like you were only saying sorry because you failed." I'm just Xander responds to Omni by saying, "As someone who knows what's going on behind the scenes, and as someone who has filled her in on some things, it really all makes sense. Please try to not pass much judgment currently until it's all out there. Criticism is always valid, don't mistake me there. It's just there's so much people don't know." Omni responds, "For reference, she still has Keemstar unblocked, who's been clowning on her 24/7, but she blocked me for giving fair feedback. Even if Mr. Beast is a full-blown misogynist, she's handling this situation like garbage." And speaking of that, she continues to joke about the situation when she says, "Starting a new league, which YouTubers should be team owners," showing a picture of the hide-and-go-seek league.
Okay, and that leads us to the final chapter. So after all of this took place, after the tweeting, after leaking DMs between herself and Mr. Beast, if I haven't showed them at this point in the video, I will leave them on the screen somewhere. She shows a conversation of Mr. Beast trying to get her to go onto a phone call and her feeling uncomfortable having a phone conversation about this hide and seek game because she feels like she might be stampeded or rolled against. There were a lot of people who said that she could have spoken to him in private and handled this privately. I think there is a potential of that, but I also understand saying, no, if you're going to say it, stand 10 toes and put it in writing. I completely understand her way of thinking with that, because sometimes people like to hide behind private conversations instead of saying what they mean and leaving you to deal with the brunt of everything, despite having a conversation with them where they might say or feel things differently. Like, it's all well and good Mr. Beast hopping into a phone call conversation with her and saying, "Rosanna, I am so sorry. I apologize for the way that me and my team handled things. We really dropped the ball," but then not actually making that kind of formal apology publicly, especially since this has now become a public affair. I understand that. There's a lot of people who didn't like that and disagreed with Rosanna over that. I somewhat understand the approach there, and I don't think it was meant maliciously to try and catch him in anything. It was more so she had a record of what it is that he said, and I don't think that that's unfair or unreasonable. But what really threw me was the comment. It was that I'm Xander, or it's Xander, or whatever. Xander, that's what I'm going to call him from this point forward, said to Omni. Because he was like, as a person who knows what's been going on and has conversed with her behind the scenes, I can tell you that criticism is valid, but there is way more to this situation. I'm like, way more? Way more. So then that's what prompted me to go over to Xander's Twitter. Now, on my main Twitter, I've been blocked. I don't know you, dude. This is the first time I've ever heard your name. But if you feel some kind of way, good for you. So I got one of my team members to send me all of the screenshots it is that they could find on Xander's profile, because I went finna go and look for you. Simple. It was at that point that something became abundantly clear that the narrative has now changed. Now Mr. Beast has victims. So the Rosanna Pansino thing was literally just a catalyst for what ends up being something completely different. One of the tweets I'm just Xander posted, he tweeted, This just got deep. A woman reached out to me after seeing what happened to Rosanna. This is way more than hide and seek. This woman just told me about her experience with Jimmy in her car as she was giving him a ride in North Carolina. I'd encourage everyone to stop thinking that this isn't a big deal, or at least be open to the understanding that women will start coming forward. I will share more in the next few days. He then went on to update it, saying, an update on this. A lot has happened in the last day or so. I'm working closely at the moment with a woman affected by Jimmy to make sure that her ducks are in a row and proof so that people won't say that she's lying. I've also talked to a woman in Jimmy's life, and she wasn't surprised at all by what happened, and how he treated her was awful as well. As soon as I'm ready to platform her story, I will. I just don't want to be reckless. Oh, buddy. We gotta take our time here because this will probably be the start of a huge situation. Okay, going back underground for now. In a few hours from now, I'll be talking about a Lyft driver's experience with Jimmy. I spoke with this woman extensively, and together we have done our research to try and validate it to the best of our ability. Her story is the first of many women who have had awful experiences and have been treated very poorly from him. Rosanna's story was just a catalyst for her having the courage to speak out. That should be mentioned because so many gave her backlash for speaking, yet it was her courage that finally let other women not feel so alone. That's all I'll say for now. I'll tweet the video when it is uploaded. He then goes on to say, here's a video on Twitter too, Mr. Beast, which reads, Mr. Beast is allegedly, in brackets, a serial cheater and a womanizer, and actively treats women in his life badly. Let's take a look.
Mr. Beast is a serial womanizer, cheater, and treats all of the women in his life like trash, allegedly. This story starts at a Holiday Inn at the Greenville, North Carolina Convention Center. Jimmy ordered a Lyft driver who was driving this specific car. Upon her arrival, she already sees that Jimmy has a camera aimed right at her, which already annoyed her. She was in the middle of hiding from an abusive ex, so she did not really want her vehicle at that time online. He stopped filming as he got in the car and he said an animated hi. She just said a very soft, gentle hi back. He got angry that she doesn't immediately recognizes him and is like, don't you know who I am? She's just like, no, should I? He scoffs at her and goes, are you serious? Have you not watched YouTube? She's like, no, not really. He mentions his subscriber count, the people that he's worked with. She just doesn't care. They haven't even moved. He hasn't clicked his seatbelt yet. Then he goes, well, I'm famous and I have a big hotel room. Do you want to see it? She says that her boyfriend wouldn't appreciate that. He says, that's okay. My girlfriend wouldn't like it either. And she says, you invited me to your hotel room, but you have a girlfriend? And he said, well, it doesn't matter. I just slept with somebody a few days ago before I flew back. And he says verbatim, I can get any woman I want, which is insane. She immediately shuts him off and just says, okay, can we just go now? At this point, he's just visibly angry and just goes, IDK, are we? We haven't left yet. Because you need to buckle your seatbelt. And this grown man is like, are you serious? Very much, it's the law and I'd like to keep driving for Lyft. He complains, clicks his seatbelt, grumbles the whole time, turns his back and has a man fit, saying, but I'm famous, I'm a big deal, how does she not watch YouTube? I can get any woman I want, like the whole time. They get to the bar, he slams her door, gives her a 1-star on Lyft. This woman felt comfortable speaking out because of Rosanna. She saw that she wasn't alone and that clearly he has a big problem with women. This driver and I have talked extensively. We have been able to research and try to validate dates, times, locations. At this point, we're just waiting on a few emails back from Lyft. We were also able to get this woman in contact with somebody else in Jimmy's life who was a big part of his life. And this woman who was very close to Jimmy was not surprised, told her that she believes her, that he has a track record of just treating all the women in his life like trash, and that she herself, even being as close to Mr. Beast as she was, got treated absolutely horribly. There are so many more stories out there of women who have been affected by him, but some of the women are terrified, others are just trying to heal from the really deep and interpersonal pain that he inflicted onto them, and then others just see how Rosanna was treated and they just don't really want to go through any of that. This is only the tip of the iceberg. If he was able to treat a woman who he did not even know like that, I can't even imagine what else he has allegedly done.
Okay, so now, usually I would not platform a video like this under any circumstances because this is the most reckless use of a platform that I have ever seen. Period, point blank, period. Despite saying that he was going to take his time with this story and wait until the evidence was readily available, he still platformed the story. He doesn't have the receipt from Lyft. If he did, he'd produce it in the video. That Mr. Beast left a 1-star Lyft review. This story is not only incredibly difficult to believe, but impossible to validate. And let me tell you something, as somebody who has been, somebody's attempted to sue me in the past, using the word allegedly doesn't save you. It is the most ridiculous thing that anyone has ever been told on social media. The alleged victims of Mr. Beast, above board. Saying Mr. Beast has potentially sexually harassed, cheated on his partner and is an adulterer, allegedly doesn't fly. That there doesn't fly. Especially if they believe that you have malice. Especially when you make posts like this. Hey mutuals and friends, fall in right quick and let's talk. Locking my posts to mutuals only. I'm seeing a lot of your tweets saying that Rosanna has lost you in this situation. She hasn't lost me because there is a bigger story in the making. That is the start of a bigger thing with time. However, I want to know why she's lost you all. Is it just the tweets? It seems to me, Xander, that your primary focus is just getting the scoop and being the first with it. And I do believe that you have had this issue in the past because one of my subscribers kindly notified me of a tweet it is that you made shortly after the swoop video confirmed that Johnny Silvestri was lying, a person that you posted up on your platform. And what did you do? Platformed their fake story. You even had to apologize to your audience, promising that you would not make the same decision to not go fully through with the research correctly in the future. Now don't get me wrong, we all get things wrong, we all get our research wrong, and Lord knows that I have too. But I feel like this is pretty similar situation of platforming nonsense without having the receipts to back them up. So Xander posted in his original video that the person who it is that he got this story from was now making content of their own and to go and check out their version of events in detail. This is the channel. It is an AI face with an AI voice. Okay, so Sis has decided that now she wants to create her storytime channel. She is in her Tana Moja arc. So let's listen to the story that we just heard from Xander directly from the horse's mouth. Okay?
Story time. This is the time that I allegedly picked up Mr. from Greenville, North Carolina when I was a Lyft driver. Allegedly. For legal reasons, I do want to say that this is an alleged story that happened, okay? I'm no longer a Lyft driver anymore, so that dash cam and the driver's license that I had, all the shit that I would have to prove it, out the window. So this is an alleged story, okay? So on weekends and some odd nights, me and my friends would drive to Greenville, North Carolina, which was not that far from us, and I actually used to live there, so it was really easy for me to drive up there for us to make more money. It was during one of these Greenville trips that I had the displeasure of picking him up. I had gotten a ping to do a pickup at the Holiday Inn where the convention center is in Greenville, and my first immediate red flag is as I'm pulling up, I notice that he has his phone in selfie mode, talking to it very animatedly, and he's also filming my car as I'm coming up the drive. So I'm already instantly uncomfortable because my car is being filmed, and I had a lot of reasons at the time why I didn't want my car filmed and put someplace. So he stops filming and opens the door and gets in and gives me a really big animated hi, his face lights up like a Christmas tree, hi, and kind of take it, hi. And I notice his face is froze like that. And he's waiting for me to go, oh my God. And I realize now this is the part I was supposed to fangirl over him. But the problem is I didn't know who he was. So at this point he realizes I don't recognize him. So his smile fades into disappointment. And I get a, don't you know who I am? I say, no, should I? And he looks at me, oh, well, you just don't recognize me. It's me. It's Mr. It's me. It's Mr. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, I don't know who that is, I'm sorry. He's totally flabbergasted, I didn't get the name drop. But it's me, Mr. from YouTube, it's me. I'm so sorry, I don't actually watch YouTube, it's not really my thing. But I have X amount of followers. Yeah, I'm sorry, I still really don't watch YouTube. He's now getting a little upset and he crosses his arms. So you don't watch YouTube at all? No, at all. Well, surely you must know like so and so and so and so and so and so. I did a video with so, and then we did this. I'm sorry, I don't know who any of those people are. I really don't watch YouTube. But I'm kind of a big deal. Okay. I'm actually kind of sort of famous and I'm a big deal. I donate a lot of money to people, so I actually have the really nice like big room here. Do you want to come up and see it? No, I don't want to come up. I know what a hotel room looks like, and sorry, I actually have a boyfriend, but thanks. Well, I didn't even ask if you had a boyfriend. I don't care. I didn't even say we were going to do anything if we got upstairs anyway. I didn't even say we were going to do anything. I didn't ask if you had a boyfriend. It doesn't matter anyway. My girlfriend wouldn't have been very happy if you came upstairs. You asked me to come upstairs and you have a girlfriend and you knew she wouldn't like that? Yeah, so-and-so. That's actually where I just got back from. But it doesn't matter anyway. I can get any woman I want. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. I got laid before I left anyway, and she doesn't even know. It doesn't matter if you don't come upstairs. Does your girlfriend know that? She doesn't even, it happens all the time. She doesn't even know it. It doesn't, no. So do you just like not watch male creators on YouTube? Like you do watch like women, right? So like you know who my girlfriend is. She has X amount of followers. No, I don't know her either. I don't really do social media like at all. No Instagram, YouTube, nothing. I don't know. I can't believe you don't watch YouTube. Are we gonna go? Are you gonna put your seatbelt on? Because that's why we've been sitting here and waiting for you to buckle so we can go. Are you serious? Unfortunately, yeah, even being in a lift, you still need a seatbelt. It's like a state law, and I can't go until you buckle. Wow. I can't, well. After he begrudgingly does his seatbelt, he crosses his arms again, and it stays that way the entire ride, staring out the window. And he proceeded to talk to himself like a crazy person the rest of the way there. I don't know how anybody doesn't watch YouTube. I'm a big deal. I have X amount of followers. I can get any woman I want, any woman I want, in any state. I'm famous. I answer absolutely none of the weird little things that he's saying to himself because he looks like he's having an episode. And then when we get to the bar, he proceeds to get out, slam my door as hard as he possibly can, and then one-star me. So after this whole experience, I'm very grateful to have him out of my car, and I immediately go back to my friends, like we always do after our rides, to share our rider stories of who we picked up and what happened. And I tell them, I just picked up somebody who said they're famous, and like they all start laughing, and they're like, oh yeah, sure. And then I tell them the name, and like everyone's like, no way. I'm like, yeah, way. Like, why? Is he like actually? And they're like, oh my god, yeah. Like he's actually from Greenville and like does this and this and this, and start telling me who he is. And they pull him up on YouTube and they're like, is this the guy? And I'm like, yep, that was him. He's a real asshole. They're like, oh no, he's supposed to be really nice. I'm like, guys, no. He just one-starred me and slammed my door and tried to cheat on his girlfriend. I'm like, he's not a nice person.
Okay, so this video gets boring now, but that is basically the crux of what it is that she is now trying to say actually took place. I don't know about you. But, the math isn't mathing. If there is proof and validity to this story, my opinion is subject to change. I would like to see the proof. I would like to see that. But at this point, we're just saying stuff and trying to hide behind being anonymous in order for you to tell these kinds of stories. That's problematic. See, the thing is, Xander, silly rabbit. Silly rabbit. See, the thing is, Xander, you're not very good at hiding the people it is that you're trying to keep anonymous, because I was able to find her like literally instantly. I do believe that she's the girl who is in this TikTok. She actually has quite a prominent social media presence. The whole I don't have an Instagram thing, cap, complete total cap. I was able to see Instagram. You've had it for quite some time. You've had it for years, in fact. So the math isn't mathing, not only with the whole wanting to remain anonymous and telling such a weird ass story, but also the fact that I was able to find you and qualify that some of the stuff you were actually saying in said story is not correct. You've had an Instagram for a long time, sweetheart. I was able to find you. I was able to find exactly your TikTok that you've had for over 2 years. Yeah, I was able to find that too. Depending on when this story took place, we don't have a timeline of events of when that actually took place. But depending on when that story took place, if it took place within the past 2 years, sweetheart, yeah, you've had a social media for a hot minute. The math isn't mathing. Xander has absolutely zero receipts and has once again platformed a voice that, quite frankly, at this point, until receipts are provided, doesn't deserve to be platformed. He says in the comment section of the videos that Oh, I have done extensive research because I've spoken to this girl. My guy, Swoop spoke to Johnny Silvestri for 6 hours. It still doesn't change the fact that he lied for 6 hours. Sometimes people will come to you with a story and they'll lie, right? I know you've been in the social media game for a while. I've been here for 7 years at this point. 7 years. I will tell you that people will come to you with stories and they will flat out lie to your face and they want you to platform it. And if you are so hungry for a story, you will platform the story. But sometimes you have to show discernment and not platform stuff until you have all of your ducks in a row. Until you genuinely believe that you have everything in line to be able to support it with evidence. Unless you can do that, then you are no better than a Rich Lux. Quite frankly. Than a Rich Lux just saying shit. And for no reason do I want anyone to take a look at this video and think to themselves, oh my god, Paige doesn't support victims. Da, 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 da. Let me tell you something, sweetheart. Right, I was a part of a BBC documentary not that long ago. I think it was last year, and it was to do with Tim Westwood. When I was 13 years old, I was sexually assaulted by Tim Westwood. There were a lot of anonymous black women who came forward to speak about how Tim Westwood targets black young ladies and has been sexually inappropriate, and in some cases, some ladies said R-worded them in person for several years, and this has been something that had been allowed to happen. Now, because that situation that took place between myself and Tim Westwood didn't cause me an immense amount of trauma, I felt like I was strong enough to come forward and be visually present to give these women voices and to give them validity. I met Tim Westwood when I was in year 9, and I went to an event, so it was just like young teenagers. It was hosted in a nightclub called Oceana in Cardiff, and I went with 3 of my friends who all went to the same school as me, and it was like a teeny bopper event. The bar served pop, you know, like it was a kids event. It was just like something to make us feel like adults because we got to be in a real nightclub. But it was, I mean, I think the whole thing started at 6:30 p.m. So it was definitely a kids event. If there is anything that I do, it is support survivors every step of the way, but the math has to math and the math isn't mathing. I will tell my story. I will be front and center and give validity where I think it deserves it. I will go forth and do research and support stories and narratives that people lambasted for years, like Trisha Paytas and her own story of SA. I will do that, but the math has to math. And if the math isn't mathing, I'm going to keep my mouth closed. I'm listening to all victims, not believe them all. Listen to them. Listen to them, hear them out, hear what it is that they have to say, but I'm not going to sit there and just believe them. And the problem is that this very distinct form of white feminism, and this is where we're going to circle right the way back to white feminism, this very distinct form of white feminism is taking place right now, which is completely disregarding not only everybody is that works for Mr. Beast, as well as all of the other contestants who are involved in this situation. We have to remember, Rosanna Pansino was one of 5 other women. There were 5 other female content creators in this list of 15, and not one of them have come forward to speak up. Not one of them have come forward to stand side by side next to her. Is it surprising that 3 of those individuals out of the 5 are women of color? Hello? What do you want, baby? You want to do picture? Yeah. Okay, you go. You go. Okay, you ready? Okay, ready? Oh, we're gonna do, okay. You're copying me. You cute pie. Okay, you gotta go now though, because mommy's gonna finish up. We will do that later. Mommy needs her phone right now because she's reading receipts. Sweetheart, we gotta go. Okay, so we're gonna say bye-bye. Play on the iPad for a bit and I'll be down in about 10 minutes. Okay?
It's just a long time.
It's not a long time, I promise. Okay?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really good. Okay, you go, big girl. I love you. Right. So you're gonna go downstairs and watch your iPad. Okay, love you. Bye. Oh Lord. What was I saying? Oh yeah. And I don't think it's surprising that these were also women of color. Personally, I just think it is completely and totally reckless, absolutely reckless for Xander to have posted this to the internet and to have platformed this voice without the relevant information it is that he needed to validate it. Should this be validated in any which way, shape or form, I will hold my hands up and say, okay, it sounded crazy, but it's real. But at this very moment in time, without the relevant information, it's very reckless to do something like that. And quite frankly, you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit. Because again, allegedly is not going to save you. I think one of the things that people struggle to understand when it comes to the Rosanna Pansino situation is that she's extremely privileged as an individual. She has an extremely successful and lucrative career within YouTube, across other platforms. And I think that there is a degree of her that not only feels as if she has been silenced for so long and it is all overflown, like she said, and she feels like she's had to tell the world about it, which is valid. Sometimes we hold things in. That's a very human response. But I also think that there is a portion of this that is ego-based, and I say that in a way that Rosanna Pansino has been on the internet. She's not a content creator that I'm wholly familiar with, but I hear that she has a lot of love online. There are a lot of people who love and care for Rosanna Pansino and think that, you know, the sun shines out of her arsehole. She could never do no wrong, which isn't a bad thing. If you're a good person, you bring positivity, good things are going to come back to you. She has a really strong and positive audience, right? And I think that what's happened is that this is ego driven, in my opinion, because she believes that because she's been an OG of YouTube, because she has been the kind of YouTuber who has been able to help other people across other platforms, that she believes that there's a degree of respect it is that she deserves or is owed due to her position and what it is that she has accomplished, that she wasn't given that day. You know what I mean? Her numbers, it wasn't the factor anymore. It was never to do with her numbers anymore. It had to be something else. You know what I mean? The reality is that Rosanna Pansino doesn't hit the kind of numbers that she used to back in the day. And don't worry, that's no slight against her. That's something that happens to all YouTubers at one point. Girl, my last video performed absolutely terribly. That's fine. That's what happens on YouTube, right? But it becomes a problem when those numbers can't stay consistent enough for people to put the stamp behind your name. For instance, myself here, I have been an OG of the quote-unquote beauty drama community for a long time, but I'm not the most successful within this field. And whilst there might be respect for being one of the OGs, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be the one that people knock on the door for collabs. It just is what it is, and we have to accept that. And I think there's just, for me personally, it's given that there is a level of ego that she feels she deserved to be respected more. And that the reason boiled down to not being respected was purely because she was a woman, despite the fact that quackity was also included in this. And I think that is that centralization that can sometimes happen within white feminism when you overlook everybody and you say this is a woman's problem. When this isn't actually a woman's problem, this is a Rosanna Pansino problem. White feminism falls into the trope of being performative at times due to its narrow focus on gender alone. All of our social identities inform and shape one another. One's identity as a woman is shaped by multiple factors in their lives, including race, social class, sexual orientation, and so on and so forth. While sexism shapes the nature of womanhood, womanhood looks vastly different from a white woman to an Asian, a Black, a Hispanic, a Native American, a Latina, or trans womanhood. Because each woman's version of womanhood is shaped by the internal expectations and the external perceptions of what it means to be a woman within their marginalized communities. The problem is with Rosanna's perception of misogyny is while she hoped that it would boost her up more voices, if anything, I would actually say it probably silenced most. No other female creator involved in the creator games has come forward in defense of Rosanna Pansino. Not Bella Porch, Lexi Riviera, Sophie Desi, or Pearson. All of them but one are women of color. The wheels and the cogs of the mechanism that creates the Mr. Beast brand is comprised quite a large percentage of women of color. And despite the backlash it is that he faced from many within his audience, he still stood 10 toes and had his friend Chris, who is a trans woman, stay an integral part of his team, of the people he has to support him to do what it is that he wants to do. Is this a boys' club? This isn't a boys' club, and nor should it be characterized as such. It is a business where the importance is placed upon what you can bring, the audience you can generate. Even in the very 12-minute video made by Mr. Beast of the Creator Games 3, he didn't even have time to reference every individual playing by name. He said something to the effect of Logan Paul, ZHC, and Bella Porch, as well as many others. Rosanna Pansino was included in as well as many others. That was her, alongside 12 other contestants.
Biggest creators on YouTube. We have Logan Paul, Bella Porch, ZHC, and so many others.
And why, out of all of the women, was Bella's name prominently featured? Because Bella is possibly one of the most successful Asian American content creators to have ever existed. Rosanna Pansino is from a time on YouTube where she is considered an OG. She is respected for her position within the community and breaking boundaries for mainstream interest in content creators. Even individuals like Eliza Koshy has been able to host food programs despite starting as a humble YouTuber. And I believe that it is that same respect that she was expecting in the Mr. Beast video in fair representation, which is valid. She does deserve to have her placement depicted online as the truth. But the discussions of misogyny and the centralization of herself whilst talking about topics in a way that makes it look so much more insidious than it actually is, in my opinion, is too far and disrupts the discussion of misogyny and sexism online. When you speak of women's misrepresentation in a game where men were also misrepresented as well. The conversation on Twitter always boils down to, well, at the end of the day, removing a woman from the top 3 placements will always be misogynistic no matter what way you slice it. But my thoughts on this are, didn't Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio, I think that's how you say their last name, win the Creator Games 2 the previous year, and people heavily criticized them for cheating? Nobody had nothing to say then. Did they have their placements removed? Tally switched? The $350,000 or $250,000 it is for their community removed? No, because this is for entertainment purposes. And Charlie and Dixie are possibly some of the most popular creators that he has ever had on his platform, because it was about generating clout and popularity and that exchange of currency. And Rosanna Pansino knew the currency exchange that was at play, that it was clout for cross-pollination. But I would argue that she had a great exchange rate in this, because I had no idea who the hell she was before this, as is the same for many commentators who have commented on this entire situation. So, a win's a win, I guess. Anyway, that is about it from me. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's video. I know it's a little bit weird and convoluted, and I know that sometimes my think pieces be thinking too hard. You can tell me if you go, girl, that's a reach. You're doing too much, that's fine. If there is anything that I think we should take away from today's video, I think it's not to platform stories without receipts. Sander, for real, I'm being serious, because that is a problem. That is a big problem, and it could cost you your entire platform for no reason. Be careful out here in these streets. I don't know why it is that you dislike me, or what your reasons are for that, or if you think whatever of me. That's completely up to you. Don't care, I'm 30. But what I will say is, Mother Hen is telling you that's probably not the best thing to do. So maybe delete that video until you have the proof to be able to back it up. With that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing day or evening, whatever the hell it is you're doing. And until next time, you beautiful, amazing, badass bitches, it's been Paige. Bye. I'm tired. This has been a long film. I've been filming for like 3 hours. I'm sweating. These lights are hot. Bye.